First of all, I'll just introduce my two lovely guests. So we've got Angela. She is a Bermudian educator, a presenter, an author, and an educational consultant. And she's particularly passionate about transforming learning in all settings, whether it's for adults or for children, professional groups. She is the founder and the owner of Chatmore British International School in Bermuda, and her areas of expertise include early childhood, educational psychology, staff recruitment and development. And Elaine started her own relocation company in Barcelona in 1991. Yes. Nice place to start a company.
Yeah, there's worse places, yeah.
And in 2007, together with Jose Antonio de Ros, she founded Eres Relocation Services. But you're originally British.
Yeah.
And you've got a background in international business studies, marketing and communication.
Yeah.
And I'm very impressed by this. You speak fluent Spanish, French and English.
Yeah, the French is a bit rusty these days, but the Spanish and the English are still there.
You lived in Paris?
Yes, I did for a while. Yeah. I attended INSEAD, so I was...
Fantastic. And so having moved around, you know what it's like to be a mobile person, to go on assignments, to live in different countries, and how important it is for employees and their families to have support. And you've built Eres on the basis of providing outstanding customer service. So we're talking about serendipity and women's careers, and just wanted to talk to you both about why you think international experience is so important, because both of you have had it. Angela, you studied in Canada, is that right?
Vermont.
Yeah, and Vermont. And obviously you've had a sort of wide experience of Europe. If I come to you first, Elaine, why do you think the perspective that you gain from international work and experience is so important, and how it can translate into sort of career success?
I think there's nothing like experiencing the challenges and living in a different country for opening your horizons and helping you to widen your perspectives, you know? I mean, when you live in one country and you have that one culture, that's one thing. And you think, however anybody tells you it's not the case, but you think that's the only way things are because you don't know any different. Yeah. But when you have the opportunity to move to a different country, I mean, my story, I was accepted a one-year stint, if you like, with a British multinational company in Barcelona, which was a lovely opportunity. The problem was, at the end of that year, I was supposed to go back to northwest England, and that wasn't such an attractive prospect, especially as I'd met my husband during that year, and I mean, that wasn't the only reason. He thinks it is, but that wasn't the only reason. That I wanted to stay in Spain. And so in order to stay in Spain, I didn't have a job. So I had to then try and find a job. And I accepted various different jobs with small Spanish companies at that time. And it was an absolute, total disaster, all of them. And I was somebody who'd always pleased everybody. I mean, my teachers at school were always pleased with me. I did really well. I worked really hard. My parents were pleased with me. I got good exam results, good degrees. And here I was, suddenly, it felt like every time I opened my mouth, I was putting my foot in it or upsetting somebody or doing something wrong. And it was a while later that I attended my first cross-cultural training session, and the penny dropped. You know, I suddenly realized, well, you know, this is where I've been going wrong. I'm applying my rules from the UK in a culture which is totally different. The rules have changed, and this is why I'm not successful. And I think that was a tremendous eye-opener for me, to help me to understand that, you know, for me, following a plan, being efficient with your time is really, really important. But to the Spanish people, changing your plan is the best thing you can do. It's the best thing ever, you know? And it's this kind of... You learn, I think, to take the best of different cultures. If you go to live in a different country with your eyes wide open, I think it's great for taking the best of both worlds. You learn, and then you apply what you already knew, and you adapt to the different rules, if you like.
And how do you think your experience of having been through that sort of cultural era of mistakes and then having learned, how has that fed into how you provide your service to the employees who are being moved?
I mean, I think there's nothing like experience to teach you and to help you to understand how other people are feeling. And Sarah, I think, was talking about social sensitivity. And I think women, I mean, I'm sure there's lots of men with great social sensitivity as well. But I think in this industry, there's a lot of women and a lot of women who care, especially, and want to make a difference and want to help people. And I think this means that we have possibly a little bit of extra empathy. And this is what you really need when you're helping people and you're delivering a good service and helping them to install themselves at a time of great change in their lives. You're reducing the stress and you're really making a difference. And that's what we're all about.
Thank you. Angela, can I talk to you about your career? Because you started off as what we call a speech therapist. You have a different word for it in Bermuda, don't you?
A speech pathologist.
Speech pathologist. And that was going to be your job, wasn't it?
I was actually planning to be a speech therapist assistant, and I think it was Sarah who mentioned the Freudian thing.
Yeah.
I never actually intended for my daughter to become a speech and language pathologist, but she did. I don't even think she was around when I was talking about it, but she actually did become a speech pathologist. But for me, that process was incredible because I ended up working with young children in a school, and I was extracting them back in the day when you excluded children from the classroom if they had issues, which was a problem for me. But it was one of the teachers that I was saving from this little boy every week, and she said, "You should actually become an educational therapist." I didn't even know what that was at the time. And I researched it, and it just so happened that the educational therapists were working in the same school that I was in. And they created this job for me, a speech and language assistant, which created quite a bit of annoyance among the licensed speech pathologists. And I actually had one in the meeting where I was introduced say, this is absolutely not going to happen. She will not work for me or with me. And when the meeting was over, she offered me a ride into the city. And I was like, absolutely not. I was like, no, I don't need a ride. And she said, no, take a ride with me. And she explained why she felt that way, and she actually became, we're still to this day, very good friends.
It sounds like she initiated a difficult conversation.
She absolutely did, and I took her on. I don't think I used some of the skills there, but I literally took her on. But it created an opportunity for me to go into educational therapy, which opened a whole new world. And I went back and I did my master's in educational psychology as a result.
And in terms of what you learnt early on in your career, how have you applied it in terms of leadership? What sort of leader would you say that you were? I mean, now that you're running a school.
Okay, so the kind of leader that I am. Well, the truth of the matter is, I actually was, much like Cynthia just said, I haven't actually applied for any jobs, never. I was headhunted a little bit, and I became a policy analyst for the Ministry of Transport. What was a teacher doing in the Ministry of Transport? And at the time, I actually thought that it was about buses. And I thought, well, okay, this is a great opportunity. I was here in the UK at Civil Service College in Sunningdale during 9/11 as a new policy analyst being trained. And my PS contacted me while I was here to ask me an idea about how to land planes in Bermuda because all of the planes were being diverted to different airports. And I'm a new policy analyst who used to work with children. So I just took all the planes and thought of them all as children. And you know, if you work in a school, you gotta hoard children together, you gotta get them to one place. And I literally used my experience as a teacher to help them come up with a little plan. It was my little bit to bring planes into Bermuda. Is the airport big enough? Is the assembly hall big enough? You know, do you have people who can bring them in? Are there enough teachers? You know, it was that kind of a process. So using my school expertise to guide the Ministry of Transport was actually really an exciting process for me.
So I think what you've hit on there is that leadership skills are ultimately transferable, and that actually the lessons that you've learned can be applied in whatever field you're in.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
And then I went on to train directors and using action learning skills. So while I was being used to train people, I was actually learning. They were actually giving me the skills that I needed to become a stronger leader. So now I know and I understand that I'm more of a visionary leader. I am directive, but I more see things on a broader, larger scale than a directed type of a leader. So I know who I am as a leader, and that's important.
And Elaine, you run your own business. What's it been like as an experience of a woman in different countries, running your own business, learning on the job?
Yeah. I have a great belief, I think especially when you're running your own business, you need to know what you're really good at, and then you need to find great people to do what you're not good at. One of the transcendental moments in the progress of Eres, which was not exactly an accident, but it wasn't at all planned, was when I met my partner, Jose Antonio de Ros, which was a total... my accountant, Gisela, had a sister, and Gisela's sister was Jose's best friend. And one night at a party they were talking, and Gisela said, "You need to meet Elaine." And he said, "Who's Elaine?" And Gisela said, "Well, she's doing the same thing as you, you should get together." And he called me, and he remembers that call, and I remember that call as well. And we got together, and Jose is a lawyer. He's a numbers person, which with me, I think ticks all the boxes when it comes. I mean, my skills are more around providing a great service, relationships, the intuition, all of that kind of thing. And it's funny because when we meet new people, and every new country we've acquired or expanded into has meant meeting quite a few new people along the way and having lunches and dinners together. And when we meet new people, Jose always remembers the turnover, the business volume, the year they started, all the numbers. I remember the partner, the children's names, the children's ages, the pets, where they went for the holidays, and all of the personal stuff. And again, I was thinking, well, there's really no reason why it couldn't be the other way around, why I couldn't be the numbers person and Jose could be the empathetic relationships person. But as Sarah said, I think there is more of a propensity for women to have that kind of social empathy, those social skills. But in the case of Jose and I, it's been the teamwork. It's been putting both of those together that's really been the key to the success of Eres growing. And as we've gone from country to country, I suppose the cultural experience of living in different countries, of understanding that getting a great team of people together who are doing what they're great at, every one of them, that's what it's all about. That's what you need for success. And then leading them is easy.
So finally, it's International Women's Day. So if you had some advice that you could give to young women or women who are feeling that they're sort of blockage in their careers, what would you say to them? Angela, just a couple of thoughts.
Truly, I literally lived today for the strategic, serendipitous moment. And for me, it's what you see today was intentional. So I'm very strategic. And so my boots are strategic because as I walked here today, nervous, I had lots of people watching my feet. and looking at my boots, and you could hear the comments about my boots. And as I walked through the street, Northumberland Street, I started to feel much taller, and I started to feel much more confident. And many of you, I'm sure, have seen my boots, and so they were a great distraction. And so for me, on International Women's Day, being 4'10.5", quite petite, put on your big girl boots, show yourself as being in the room, and give your best. I think as women, that's so important, that we have to stand out and stand up and put on our boots. And that's what I did today. I pulled on my boots and I showed up. And I think that's the greatest advice. I give that advice to young people all the time. Put on your big boots and get out there and do the big work, because we need you.
Great pair of boots, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Elaine.
really stylish.
How about you? What are your thoughts?
I think I would say be yourself, and don't be scared to be yourself. And find the people that you need to support you, build your teams, have confidence, but don't worry if you're a shy, introverted person. You know, you can be a leader too. We don't all have to be wonderfully confident, hey-ho people. There's room for shy introverts as well. Just believe in yourself. I think Cynthia said it as well. Make sure you know your craft, know your stuff, prepare, do your homework, but just, go out there and, as you say, do your best.
Great. Thank you. Thank you both so much. Really. Thank you.